Hello internets and welcome to another Pokemon X and Y Wi-Fi battle. You can call me a 12 pack, and the battle I have today is a very close one against someone called Zachariah. Now, team preview. I'm using a pretty random team build-up with most of the roles I generally like to have on my team covered by pokes that I don't normally use to cover them, if that makes sense. That being said, though, I am bringing Shuckle as usual for my sticky webs and rock setter because, frankly, I think he's the best there is in the whole game for what he does. So, yeah, I believe he's a defensive variant for this battle. And then I have Eviolite Dusclops, mostly just to burn things with Will-O-Wisp and trap the last poke on the team with Curse. Also, obviously, Ghost type block rapid spin, so he's good for that too. I usually like to have at least one Ghost on every team I make, so. Okay, next up we have a Assault Vest Rhyperior, who I've used a couple times before and found him to be surprisingly decent. I believe he is, let's see, max HP, max special defense, possibly on this spread I'm running. I'm not 100% sure. But anyway, then I have a Cleric Audino, which is normally what I use for my Cleric, but I just thought it would be really beneficial to have on this team since nothing else has any real form of recovery other than Cryogonal, but we'll get to him in a minute. Then next to Audino here we have Skuntank, who I've really wanted to use for quite some time. He's actually kinda shit, but he's really cool, so that's the reason I brought him with. He's just got sort of a basic life orb set on him with Poison Jab, Sucker Punch, Pursuit, and what do you call it? Taunt. And I've played maybe 4 or 5 games with him on the team, and I always run into the worst possible matchups whenever he gets KO'd. I have yet to activate Aftermath as he's getting knocked out, which is unfortunate, but. And then finally on the team we have Cryogonal, who is here for rapid spin purposes, and it's got like Toxic and Ice Beam and Recover on it. Now this is a pure specially defensive Cryogonal, so he has like literally no defense. So if I get hit by any sort of physical attack, it's probably going to OKO me. So yeah, that's my team, so let's take a quick look at my opponent here. He's running a fairly standard OU team with the exception of Roserade, or Rosilia, I'm not really sure which one that is since I don't use them. But I know that thing gets aromatherapy, so that's probably why it's here. Although I do not see a rapid spinner on his team, unless something there can learn Defog. Maybe Rosilia can learn Defog as well, I'm not 100% sure. But anyway, I've talked enough already, so without further ado, let's get started.
Zachariah is issuing a challenge now.
So he's going to lead off with his Gardevoir here. And I'm going to lead off with my Shuckle, as I mentioned earlier. Now, since this is a defensive Shuckle, he's not going to really stand up to the might of Gardevoir for very long. As you see, he takes off a solid 25 to 30% of damage with Dark Pulse there. And hoping he would use like a Calm Mind or Nasty Plot or something, I decided to use Encore, hoping to lock him into it, but that wasn't the greatest idea because that Dark Pulse is doing a lot of damage to me, so I just decide, YOLO, I'll leave Shuckle in here and hopefully he can get up both the hazards before he goes out. I should be able to take one more hit, right? But unfortunately it gets a crit and Shuckle's out of the game early with only getting up Stealth Rocks and no Sticky Webs, so that could be potentially problematic down the road. So I send in Skuntank here, hoping to do some work with him possibly. and he resists the Dark Pulse that I've locked into Encore, obviously. So predicting him to switch out, I use Pursuit, but he actually stays in, and what? He resists it? And what do you know, it's Zoroark. I probably should have predicted that they'd lead with that thing, but oh well. So I'm able to KO it with Sucker Punch, fortunately, before it lands something powerful on me, like an Aura Sphere. So that's that thing out of the way. But it's essentially KO'd 1.5 Pokemon on my team, so that's not really that great of a trade-off. I'm just going to leave Skuntank in and do as much damage as I can to this thing. And actually, that Poison Jab did a really solid chunk on it. But that's going to be the end of Skuntank as he gets Flamethrowered, and due to it being a special attack, I don't get the aftermath damage on Goodra, so it's still alive. But that's where I bring in Cryogonal and just outspeed and Ice Beam it. I was a little afraid there that if it was running a specially defensive or Assault Vest set that I wouldn't KO it and it would dump me with Flamethrower, but I got lucky there and was able to take it out. So he sends out Weevil, a very bad matchup for Cryogonal, even though I'd resist any of his ice attacks. As I mentioned before, Cryogonal has such shit for defenses that he'd probably get OKO'd, and it's a good thing I did, because that thing turns out to be carrying Brick Break. And Dusclops is just getting dumped on by the Night Slashes here, even with Eviolite and max defense. But I'm able to burn it before he can KO me, and since that was a critical hit before, I know there's no way he's going to knock me out unless he gets a second one. Unfortunately, I'm right, and I'm able to get off the rest to bring myself back up to full stalling potential. Now, next turn here, I believe I'm going to... Okay, he's going to switch out with Weevil. I guess realizing he can't really do anything to me while burned. Probably going to use Aromatherapy with this Rosalia, or Rosilia, I'm not really sure how you pronounce it. But I decided to swap out 2 into my Audino so that I can use Heal Bell and wake up my Dusclops. So both of us sort of seem to have the same idea of curing the status ailments on our respective pokes. So I'm going to pull out right away here into Cryogonal, hoping to resist that Sludge Bomb sufficiently if it goes for another one, and it turns out it does, and Cryogonal takes that quite handily and is able to drop an Ice Beam on it. And it lives, not surprisingly, since I have 0 attack EVs. And why it didn't go for Aromatherapy there on its last turn alive, I'm not really sure, because that's certainly what I would have done in order to get the most out of that Weavile. But maybe it's like Spexed or something, because it's just dropping Sludge Bomb repeatedly. However, it isn't really doing a whole lot of damage to me to lead me to believe that it is Choice Specs, so I don't know. But anyway, it's going to send Weavile out again in order to fight my Cryogonal. Fair enough, but I'm going to get the hell out of there, bring back in Dusclops. And, he predicts me to switch this time though and uses Night Slash instead of Brick Break. And that still does a pretty solid 36 or so damage to my Dusclops, even though he's burned. But I'm just going to leave Dusclops in here to absorb all those hits, since I don't really have anything that can safely swap into that Weavile. And just KO it with Nightshade, which I forgot I actually had on him up until this point. I usually use Mean Look so that I can lock stuff in with Curse and then rest it up, but I guess I got Nightshade on this set. So here comes the real Gardevoir, and predicting a Moonblast or something, I get the hell out of there and bring in Cryogonal, hoping he can at least take enough hits to get off a Toxic on this thing, because otherwise it's probably going to rampage through my team here, and unfortunately it does way too much damage, and that's going to be the end of Cryogonal. He did pretty decent that game though, I was not disappointed with his performance. So my Audino definitely can take at least one hit from this thing, being max special defense, max HP, and wow, that did a hell of a lot. But fortunately I'm able to get off Toxic before I get hit by another hit and die. However, it does have Synchronize, and I get Toxic in turn, and I'm not really able to cure myself because if I go for Heal Bell, I'll get knocked out by Moonblast, and if I go for Protect, I'll just keep losing health because of Toxic, so I pull out into my Rhyperior, hoping he can tank some hits with the Assault Vest set here. And you'll see that he actually is somewhat decent. Like, look at that. He lives with over 50% HP, and if I'm not mistaken, his special defense at level 100 equals out to about 200 or 300 with Assault Vest. So it's not too bad considering he has 430 odd HP. And I'm able to OKO it with Earthquake, surprisingly. I always forget how weak Gardevoir is on the bulk side of things. Like Rhyperior doesn't even have any attack EVs, and was still able to OKO it after a little bit of toxic damage. So at this point, all that's left is this Mawile. I'm just going to leave Rhyperior in here and try to do as much as possible, and he doesn't go for Sucker Punch there. I guess maybe predicting me to swap into, what do I even have left? I'm sorry, I lost track. Oh, I guess he was predicting me to swap, so he didn't want to use Sucker Punch on the chance that it would fail. But I'm able to get off solid damage with the Earthquake before Rhyperior's imminent demise. And I find it amusing that Rhyperior was actually able to outspeed Mawile without sticky webs. Oh man, Mawile's speed is just abysmal and even worse than Rhyperior's somehow. So I'm able to get off Curse with Dusclops and basically ensure the win because he can't switch out to anything anymore and I still have Audino left. And with the conclusion of that turn where he knocks me out, the curse damage racks up enough for him to die, for the narrow 1-0 victory in my favor. Good game, Zachariah. I really enjoyed that one despite your pretty scrubby team. And I was fairly happy with my own somewhat bizarre team makeup here. Dusclops proved he can take super effective hits like a champ. Rhyperior proved he can take possibly choice spec Moonblasts for 3 hits before dying. And Skuntank, well, he didn't really prove a whole hell of a lot of anything other than the fact that he's kind of cool. Oh, and I guess we can't forget about Cryagonal, who is actually pretty underrated in my opinion. He's got really good special bulk, and as long as you play him correctly so that you never run into physical attackers, he can really benefit your team. He's fast, has reliable recovery, his special attack's not brutal, and his HP is not horrible either, so he's all in all a pretty decent poke. So anyway, I hope you all enjoyed. I hope this may motivate some of you who watch this to maybe use some of the things I have on my team. And with that, I'll see you all next time. Bye for now. True.